Hey, everybody, this is Pastor Vera. This is Vera Sattler with Women of Life and Viola's Coaching, and I am your host of Tuesday Talk Live. And I am supposed to have a guest with me tonight, and I believe he had an emergency because he has not been able to hop on. But you know how we do. We are able to, and I think that is my guest calling me. So if you give me just a second. Yes, sir.
But where's that link?
I will resend it to you again. It's in your C. Mark Allen email.
Okay. Okay, yeah, send it again. Please.
Okay. So he is able, he's back now, and my guest is able to hop online with us. So I'm going to invite him again. He had a quick emergency, but I'm going to invite him to come online with us again because I really want the guest to be here tonight and talk about this topic that is so important to us, and because I can't address this topic. So again, I want our guest to be able to hop on and talk to us about this. So again, this is Vera Sattler, your host with Tuesday Talk Live, and we're going to be talking tonight about a topic that's very, very important to us all as African American women. And if you haven't already hopped on, I'm going to give you some time to hop on while our guest is hopping on. So bear with us tonight. Bear with us. It's going to be an interesting topic. You know, in the past, we've discussed the disparities in healthcare. We've discussed the issues that we have when we go to get treatment. But have we ever really dealt with the fact that sometimes the issues come because we don't address or we don't speak up for ourselves. We don't talk about what's going on. We don't say, hey, this is what is bothering me. Or we go along to get along. And tonight, and as I've been dealing with, I've known Dr. Allen for, I want to say 14 years now. So he's not new to me. He's definitely not new to being an OBGYN. But one of the things he is real adamant and he's real a big advocate about is, even though there is a disparity in our healthcare, is speaking up for yourself, making sure that you get the healthcare and the treatment that you need. But because there is us as African American women, especially in that OB/GYN arena, we're not seeing the same. You know, I will say this. I've been reading this book that's called Self-Love for Black Women. And one of the concepts in there talks about how we have been deemed a strong Black woman. Ladies, listen to this and you tell me. Hit me up in the chat. Let me know if this has been something you've dealt with as a woman. And when they say, and I'm just connecting us in all of our areas, you know how I do it. When they say that we are the strong Black woman, right? So that term was put there for us because as we were coming out of slavery, as we were coming out of that era of being demoralized and stuff like that, they wanted to elevate our presence. But as it goes on, now it dehumanizes us because people try to look at us and say, oh, don't worry, she's a strong Black woman. She can handle it. She can take it. And they put that on us. And so it takes away our human ability, that we no longer have the right, or we have the ability to be able to tap in to our emotions or our feelings. It makes it seem like our pain is not the same as another woman's pain, or our feelings, or when we do stress, or we talk about what hurts us or what bothers us, then we're just being aggressive or angry Black woman. And so, have you ever had that happen to you? If you have, I want you to hit me up in the chat. I want you to talk about it tonight. I want us to address that because, that has not been our friend. Being a strong Black woman where you have to carry everything on your shoulders, on our shoulders, and having to swallow what you feel is physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, and just carrying these burdens because, hey, suck it up. You're a strong Black woman. suck up the pain of childbearing, where we, another woman down the hall, whether she's Caucasian, Asian, or whatever else, are maybe given medication to help subside some of the pain. We're saying they'll tell us take a Tylenol, it's not that hard or it's not that rough. So, have you ever encountered that? If you have, I want you to put some comments in the chat because we want to address that tonight. And let me see what's going on with my guests. Oh, okay. And I'll see you on the link. All right. He's almost there. So, as I said, I just want to make sure that we are able to engage in conversation about that. So, if you are watching this later, then and you're not watching it live, then of course I do want you to come in and I want you to still share with us because we want to be able to come back and address your comments. Again, are you that woman that has gone to the doctor and you've tried to stress and say that I feel this pain? I remember, and I'm just being transparent. I remember going to a doctor because I deal with migraines off and on. And as a young woman, they started right after childbirth, after I gave birth to my first son. And the doctor told me, this was later in life, I probably was in my about 40. It was an old doctor. He says, and I told him, I said, well, I don't take a lot of vitamins because there's something in the vitamins that causes me to get a hello, Dr. Allen. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to add you to the stage. Good evening, Dr. Allen. And I'm just talking to people about the effects of being a strong Black woman and how we get there's a lot of misconceptions about that and how individuals will kind of treat us like our voice, our comments, our pain doesn't matter because we're supposed to be strong women and how they take advantage of that. So I'm so excited that you're here tonight to talk about this topic with us. And, sometimes people have to understand you are a doctor. So you may not be able to hop in and hop out when I want you to.
Yes, I am.
So I do appreciate you taking your time tonight. I did tell him you are not just Dr. Allen, but you are my friend. I was telling a friend the other day, I said, we have this ongoing joke. I call him my big little brother, and he calls me his big little sister because we've known each other now, I think, at least 14 years, right? I was just counting back Anthony. Anthony is 12, going to be 13 this year. So I've known you at least 14 years. So, guys, welcome to the stage, Dr. Chris Allen. Dr. Allen, would you tell the people
Correct.
where you're from, whatever you want to tell them about yourself, and we're going to hop back into this conversation about disparities in healthcare. And I'm going to finish my story, guys, about the doctor telling me that what I was saying wasn't true. You want to tell them who you are, Dr. Allen?
Okay, I'm Caribbean American. I hail from Brooklyn.
We can barely hear you, but go ahead. You're Caribbean American and you hail from where? Oh, Brooklyn.
Our streaming is not perfect, so.
Oh yeah, because he lives out in the country Brooklyn. In New York.
I live. I do. I live in Orange County, New York, which is about 60 miles from New York City, about 1 hour, and about 15 minutes from the Pennsylvania border. I am an OB/GYN. I was trained in New York, Valhalla, New York School of Medicine, New York Medical College. Now has a different name. It's now called Toro, or it's now affiliated with Toro Medical School. And did my residency at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. And then went off into OB/GYN, obstetric and gynecological care of women I've worked everywhere. I've worked in health centers. I've worked in private practice. I've done group practice, hospital group practice. Now I currently work as a hospitalist, whereby I'm the place you'll find me. You won't find me outside in uh, in a clinic or an office. I'm just there for obstetrical or gynecological care on an emergency basis. I've been
Oh
doing
wow.
this now since 2001. Yeah, so that makes what is that? Do the math. 20 something years
23
now.
years.
Yeah, it's a second career. I was formerly a school teacher. I taught elementary school in New York City for a while, and then went back to my first calling, which was medicine. And
Now
here I am
that part
today.
I didn't know about you, Chris. I didn't know you were a school teacher. Maybe that's something we have
Yeah,
in common. Maybe that's why we click, because we
yeah,
both have a love for learning.
yes, yes. I still like didactics. I do.
Yeah, well, that's
Uh,
great.
Also, well, the other side of me, um, I'm an ordained minister,
Hmm.
um, an elder in the Church of God in Christ churches, and I have a master's in divinity, and that's it. Oh, I am the father of four children, two
Yes,
biological and two.
and a gifted musician. Don't leave that part out.
Oh,
And a
yeah.
gifted Caribbean musician. And so, and that's actually where I met Dr. Allen. We were fellowshipping at the same church. Loved his vibe with music. We just hit it off. We became friends. And like I said, he delivered my grandson. We have always been friends. We have this great love for the Word of God together, and just so we share some commonalities. I asked him to come on and talk about this topic because it came up, Dr. Allen. This came up a little bit. I did when I was doing some talks in December. I was talking to some individuals about um, grief, about individuals who grieve. And one of the things we talked about was how African Americans grieve differently than other races. And so this came back to my mind about disparities in um, maternal care and African American care. And I was starting to tell the individuals how I went to a doctor once there in Middletown. When Donald and I was there, we were seeing a doctor, and I told the doctor, "Well, I can't take vitamins because I have a chemical imbalance to to vitamins. My body says there's too much of chemicals when I take vitamins." He flat out told me that can't be true. And I tried to explain to him it doesn't matter. I've taken all natural, whatever. After 3 days, I get migraines. But he wanted to tell me how my body react, and I basically was crazy. But for myself, I knew because I tried all brands, all types. I'd done it multiple times, and I wasn't going to let him send me into a spiral. And so I just didn't do what he said. And so I was looking at some of the things that you had sent over, and I love the part where you were saying, but I'm going to let you back up and talk about some of this, about what you see and how you encourage people to speak up for themselves. One of the things you sent me, it said, what do we do? Speak up for ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest problems maybe we have in our community is that we don't speak up. We know there's something different or we know something's wrong. What have you really noticed in your practices? And you said you've done healthcare. I mean, you've done clinics, you've done hospitals, you've done, all types of care. What have you seen as some of the biggest problems in this disparity?
Well, I think you touched on it. That we're not our women of color, black and brown women, are not speaking up, and the question is, well, why aren't they speaking up? And what I find is that they don't find any relevance, and they can't necessarily relate to the people they're speaking to. So they
Mm,
feel that, well, they're not going to understand. And so they don't say anything. Um, Quite often with physicians, or healthcare providers, um, there was that older mentality where we thought that person was God, like a God complex. So whatever they said, you know, that was it. We wouldn't challenge them. If they said, well, no, that's enough medication for you. You shouldn't be requesting more. Then that's exactly what our woman would do, not request more because of seeing the provider in a sort of a God complex, a father figure image, and not
mhm.
and not really challenging them to by speaking up. So yeah, those are two reasons right off the bat that would um, hinder African American women from speaking up. They don't feel that the provider relates. I mean, certainly if you're in Bedford Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and your provider is from barely speaking your language, then you can't communicate. So you
Mhm.
don't feel, you don't feel any commonality there. You don't feel that that person can understand what's going on.
Oh, that's really good. And we still find that not just in obstetrician and gynecology, we find that in all of our healthcare. That so I'm going to see this old guy who's been treating people for 40, 50 years, and here I am 25 or 30, and I'm dealing with, this other issue that maybe he has no, I mean, not saying that he's not a good doctor, but okay, let's just call it. I'm dealing with this old Caucasian man that
From Russia.
okay, yeah, let's say that from Russia, and here I am, this black woman who lives in the inner city who has all kind of different things and going on, not just with my health, but things, family, socioeconomic things that affect my health. That how does he relate? You know what I'm saying? So I get that. That's really huge. And I think when we begin to tell people, look, this is some of the things, because maybe we don't even know that that's what we're dealing with. Maybe we don't even realize that that's why we're not speaking up. So we don't. Um, wow. And then you said, and that we don't communicate. Do you find that we're afraid? Do you think it's not just irrelevance, but fear? Have is it fear of ridicule, feel or shame?
It certainly could be fear of shame. For example, in obstetrics and gynecology, um, our families uh, sometimes look a little different from the more traditional WASP family, um, or even some of those families formed overseas where they have one partner for their entire life and they have one
Mhm.
child. Uh, that's a different looking family dynamic from ours, and I think sometimes our women, for fear of being ridiculed for being different, for having choosing a different path in terms of forming our families, we might feel that someone would judge us, meaning, the woman might feel that someone would judge her and not want to speak up.
So how have you worked with, and I know you've written some information on this and you've studied some stuff. What have you do you have any statistics you want to share tonight, or do you how have you worked in your practice? You do an emergency care. I'm surprised to see as you stepped away from the clinic because I know you love your patients. But has that been difficult to step away from the clinic?
Well, doing outpatient care allows you to form a bond with your patients, whether it's clinic or private practice or hospital group practice that also has their outpatient offices, you get it because you're seeing in what I do for a living, maybe not every week, but certainly towards the end of that pregnancy, for the last month, I'm seeing her weekly, sometimes more than once per week. So you get to form those kinds of bonds. Working in a more emergent manner doesn't allow that.
So do you miss it? Do you miss the clinic?
But it allows me to have followed you home. Now, working only as a hospitalist, I'm pretty much a shift worker. So once my shift is done, I go home. Right. So yeah, I do miss that. But I get to see another aspect where the disparity actually stands out. For
Okay.
example, I have been in cases where for C-sections, for example, um, where the African American woman or the brown woman is screaming that she's feeling everything. The anesthesiologist said he's given her enough medication. She's had the epidural or she's had the spinal anesthesia. You should be comfortable. And she's screaming that she's not, and she's being ignored.
Wow.
Yet, if it's
So you, as the one
another,
who's delivering the baby, how do you handle that when you have an anesthesiologist saying, I've given her enough, but you have this woman on your table and you have to do a C-section on her and she's in excruciating
oh,
pain?
I've been very vocal. I've been very vocal. I'm known to make people feel badly. I will say, I am not going any further. This is not going any further. I'm not assisting you. If I was the assistant surgeon, I'm not assisting you. Or if I'm the primary surgeon, I'm not going one step further until this woman is comfortable. If she's screaming like this, we should believe that, yes, she's in pain. Because
That's
it's
good.
shown that there are different standards. Women of color, they think, can handle more pain.
Mhm.
They should be more tolerant of pain than the lily white patient. Um, God forbid this had been a woman from Park Avenue in New York City, where you have the highfalutin, patients. Um, God forbid, you had one of them screaming that they're in pain. Everything would shut down immediately, but the African American woman from, a few blocks further north, Harlem, no, it's not the same reaction. The doctors don't stop as quickly. So I've been very vocal. No, I will not proceed until this woman is is not complaining of pain.
And it's so sad to hear that in this day and age that we still have to fight for that right to have equal treatment. And so many people, I've heard people talk about how even the maternal care that they get, during the pregnancy to make sure that their children, the baby in the womb, that they can care for the baby in the womb is not equal either. When I was working at the OBGYN clinic at UT Southwestern, there's, so much money, research dollars towards maternal fetal care for African American women. And so many of our population doesn't even know that because it is such a known fact that we don't get the same treatment. And even though it's a known fact, there's few individuals like yourself that's going to stand up and make noise. There's so many of us that have to go home, women that have gone home bleeding out, not getting the treatment they need. And it's really sad. And so, whatever you can share with us tonight that you have on data, statistics, information where individual can go and read about some of these things to educate themselves. If I was a woman going into the clinic and I'm not getting the treatment that I know that I should get, what would you recommend I do?
Well, you mentioned website. I mean, there's just so much on the internet. A lot of good stuff there. It's definitely not all bad. We'll tell patients, oh, don't get on the internet, but there's some very good sites for obstetrical gynecological care. I always recommend my Congress, which is the American Congress of OBGYNs. If you go to their website, pretty much anything you want to know about obstetric or gynecological care will be there. That's my go-to. And there's some other ones that are more, where the language, the dialogue is more geared towards um, a population that's maybe not as sophisticated. Certainly easier to read. Medscape is a good site. NC NCBI is another one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that one may be a little sophisticated, but yeah, definitely anything for obstetric care or gynecological care, I would recommend ACOG.org. And
I've added
there's
those
even
sites to our chat for our listeners to actually be able to go and to research that, because I know one of the links you sent me the other day, the article was just really just it was amazing and interesting, and it was stuff that I think I've heard before, but to be able to read. And I really want to encourage those that are listening or will listen to this later, will catch it on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or wherever you're going to grab this information. I'm here tonight with Dr. Chris Allen. He is a OBGYN in, I'll call it upstate, but Orange County, New York. I've known him for quite a long time. He is board certified OBGYN, and we're just talking about healthcare disparities for African American women, but especially in the OBGYN field. We haven't dug too deep in it, but we really want people to realize there is such a disparity, but you still have a voice. That is why I wanted Dr. Allen to come on, because I want him to encourage those that are listening. You have a voice, and he has seen firsthand these disparities. Um, so, Dr. Allen, one of the things too that I know from you that we have talked lots of times, that sometimes, and I was saying it when you first came in, that we need to speak up for ourselves. So once I go here and I learn, hey, I'm not crazy, because I think sometimes a doctor can make you think it's in your head.
Mhm.
This excessive pain you say you feel, like the woman screaming on the table. This is all in your head. I gave you medicine. How have you helped women navigate past that? I mean, you've been seeing women for what, 20 some years?
Mhm. Well, it's pretty much what we've been talking about. Just making sure that they recognize that they do have a voice and that they should use their voice. There's really no other way to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
You have not because you ask not.
Right,
you know,
right.
make them aware that this, whatever treatment they're giving you is not working, and be persistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, call their offices. Let them know that. Am I still on?
Yes,
Hello. Okay.
yes.
Call their offices. Make them aware that you have access to their websites. They're on Facebook. You're on Facebook. Let them know that you can, if you're not getting, if you're not being heard, then there may be other places that will want to listen.
Mm,
Many people on Facebook will want to hear what you have to say. Um, healthgrade.com. That's another place where you can go and rate your physician. Make your physician and his office aware that you are one of those people who believe that the pen is as mighty as the sword, if not mightier. So,
wow.
as a matter of fact, I often speak with friends, and we talk about how different uh, the African American culture is versus the white culture. The Caucasian uh, person will quickly go and fill out an evaluation and rate you, while in my community, it's more about, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to have an attitude. And that goes nowhere after you leave. You have an
Right.
attitude for a couple of hours or a couple of minutes with the staff. What you should be doing is filling out evaluations, getting on their websites, putting it out there in the community that this is not um, someone who is uh, practicing according to standards that should benefit people
Mm-hmm.
regardless of culture or race.
I know
Use
one of the things
you.
that we get is those press ganey. I just filled out a press ganey from one of my doctors I just visited last week. Well, we get press ganey reports. I went to Baylor Scott and White, and we get those press ganey. And I remember when I worked in the clinic, they looked at part of their salary was tied to their press ganey scores. And lots of times, like you're saying, we ignore that stuff like, it's a bother. It's a bother. But when you get enough press ganey scores, it's that bring when they put them together. I don't know if they use press ganey there, but here in Texas they use press ganey. And when they get enough of those scores accumulated together that bring your rating down, they have to address it.
Yes, these organizations will stop and look. And now, certainly, we're not asking them to get rid of these physicians because there's certainly a shortage of physicians in many of our communities. But we want them trained. We want them taught on how to be sensitive to the
Yes.
cultures in which they're working.
Yes. Do you think so? You just said something that it just sparked another question to me. Do you think it's important to seek out physicians or healthcare providers of your own culture, or is that not the biggest deal? Is it more just important to seek out someone who listens? Because sometimes I think we want to go to physicians of our culture, but is that important?
Well, I mean, it's important. I would say this is a case by case basis. Sometimes you want to make sure that you are seeing the physician who is the most qualified in that field, that area. So while you'll have more in common with an African American or Latino physician, you may do just as well with a physician from another race or culture who has been culturally sensitized, who's been given the proper training so that he or she can relate to people, the patients in your community.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Wow. I think sometimes, yeah, we get because when we get culturally sensitized, we get in a rut that we find ourselves difficult to climb out of.
Yeah.
So then, even when we're trying to see beyond where we should, we can't. We're stuck. I love that. That's great advice because um, as I became an older woman, I did seek a physician that not necessarily was her age, but that she dealt with women who were dealing with the things that I was dealing with in my older age. Um, and even now, I want someone. Um, I will say, being here, I had to go through several OBGYN, or
Mhm.
of course, I'm not having babies at this age, but I had to go through several till I found one that really listened, pay attention. And I'm a stickler on timely. I'm sorry. I know they book you guys back to back to back, but I'm a stickler to. I want to get in. I don't want to sit there for 4 hours because you quadruple booked your patients. But I really did. I had to go through at least, I would say, Chris, at least 4 or 5 before I found one. After that physician, she moved on and went to another state. But I had to go through probably another 4 before I found her. And I'm so pleased with her care. Even our family healthcare provider, I had one, our family practice felt like she was just giving us medicine, but we found one, we dubbed her the vampire doctor, but she takes blood work. She doesn't just give you medicine. She just doesn't, she understands that, like, say for kidneys, that African American kidneys process different than another, race. And so I think it is important just to make sure you have someone that's culturally sensitive, but also understands the makeup of different, physiology. Our physiology is different. So,
Yeah. So, I also wanted to add that being um, aware, being on top of your own healthcare, doing the research on your own can also identify, um, can also make you more sensitive to a disparity, meaning you can go, oh, wait a second, as per my research, it says that this particular thing should be happening. For example, using meeting metrics for, your PAPs at a certain time, or your breast exams starting at a certain time, pelvic exams being done at a certain time. So I mean, if you're staying on top, so if you're going to some of these websites like I recommended, ACOG, that will help with your education piece so that you can identify when, oh, there's a this service being done here. No one has been calling me to say, hey, Mrs. So and so, you are due for this, or sending a letter to say, hey, you're due for this and I haven't seen you. uh,
mhm.
so it behooves you as a patient to also be on top of your uh, healthcare. In other words, one should not allow, just depend on, oh, the practice, the medical practice,
Okay.
to be looking out for them. Like you said, they're booking patients back to back. They're busy, and it's very easy for a patient to slip through the cracks. So you uh, to avoid disparity, one of the ways to navigate that around that is by being on top of your own healthcare,
Oh my gosh.
being informed.
How many of us have taken, and I'm not, I know I'm generalizing. I know I'm being real general, but when I hear you say that, be on top of like our plans. I mean, I've talked to people and I've said, have you had your colonoscopy?
Uh-huh.
I'm not going in there get that thing till they call me. Well, what if they don't call you? And
Right.
I just, when you said it, I thought about the person who has visited different or changed physicians and your
Mhm.
records haven't caught up with you,
Right. Correct.
or because they don't have an electronic, they only have the paper. So they don't even know that you haven't had your colonoscopy.
Right.
So why not be on top of that? Or then when you finally go in there 7, 8 years late, you have polyps that are cancerous.
Right.
But then it's somebody else's fault. So it is also, I love it. It's our responsibility to think about where our fault line is
Yeah.
in this. Man. So if we start owning and start navigating and stop waiting till, and also don't wait till it hurts. Don't wait till we broke down. So, I try to go get all my checkups when I need to. Recently, I had to take another bone density test, and I'm like, why? I just took one last year. But if my doctor said it, go do it. I don't know. I don't see the backside of everything she sees, but she requested it, and I did it. And so sometimes it, may be a little necessary, but I talked to her. I talked through it. Um, but that's really good because I think most of us are. I will ask you that. With a lot of people that you've seen, women, do you think they stay on it more, or they're not even aware? You guys have to chase them down more. In our culture, I'll put it there: black and brown women.
In our culture, no, I mean, you see everything. You see those patients who are on top of it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, we're learning
Yeah.
from experience, and we're learning from trial and error, and we're learning from the past that we need to be better and we
Mhm.
need to do better. And hopefully, those that are listening to this conversation will learn that there's ways to educate ourselves from the websites that I put on the live chat, that there are ways that we can do better. We can learn to own and we can learn to speak up for ourselves. We don't have to go into a place and say, well, they're not paying attention to my pain, so I'll just ignore it too, because pain is indicative that something's wrong.
Yeah.
So, what else would you like to share with us about disparities in healthcare, or even with women as African American women? I'm sure you got some more stuff there.
Well, I just wanted to. Well, I would also want to say that, you know, another reason for the disparity would be, um, the affordability of healthcare.
Hmm.
Making sure that within our communities, um, that 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 our women have insurance. Making sure that they have insurance, and adequate insurance. That will cover some of even those, like I said, metrics. You know, having your colonoscopy, having your vaccines. Yeah, just making sure that our women have health insurance is important uh, when we talk about disparities in healthcare. Um, and screening tools. So, talking about being on top of your healthcare, that sort of dovetails with screening tools. The screening tools are what I call the metrics before, where when you start breast exam, how often, when do you start your PAP, how often, when do you do your colonoscopy, etc. When do you do a pelvic exam? When do you stop having PAPs? When do you stop having breast? Just making sure that those screening tools are in place, so these women don't fall through the cracks.
Hmm. Hmm. So let me ask you this question: when we're talking about affordable or healthcare and being able to do these things, someone listening to this may say to you, or say to us, say, "Oh, you're telling me I have to go get these screening done, but nothing covers. I don't have any insurance." Are there free clinics that they can align themselves with that will do those basic metrics, those basic screenings? You need your annual Pap
Mhm.
smear, or a biannual Pap smear, or your mammogram biannual. Are there lots of, because if I'm not mistaken, there are free clinics that will you can align yourself with and get those type of
Yeah,
exams done.
all practices, whether private, whether it's a clinic, um, private practice, they all have that information and they're obligated to share it with the patient. So if a patient shows up and does not have the health insurance coverage, these places are obligated. So that should always be your first step. Make the appointment with the with the GYN or OB office, even though you have no health care. And you go in, they all have social workers who will help to navigate the process. And if they can't do it there in their office, they can certainly direct you, point you to those areas where you can get that kind of care for little or next to nothing.
Oh, wow. And see, that goes right back to what you said, being educated about
Yes.
our being educated. Because if we don't go, we don't get the education, and then we don't get the help, and then we don't get the health care. So that again is on us to go the next step, educating ourselves about what we are entitled to and speaking up. So
Mhm.
now, anyone listening to this, when you go to a healthcare office and they say, "Well, ma'am, we can't treat you because you don't have any insurance," then you can say, "Well, I need to speak to your finance or your social work department."
Yeah,
You say,
social worker.
"No,
They usually have a social work
the
department,
social work. I
or,
need to
or,
speak to your
or
social work."
yeah, someone in that department will be able to point you to the right areas.
And if you go to office and you get a crab apple receptionist, you just push past. I think sometimes, again, we're uncomfortable with pushing past that uncomfortability and pressing forward. But I've learned to, this is me, and this is the only one me I have. I have to preserve this one me and take care of it, because nobody else is going to fight as hard for me as I will. So
Right.
we have to learn to get past that and push past that to take care of this. As I take care of this body, one of the things we were talking about being ministers of the gospel, I can't serve anyone else broke down, raggedy, and telling them how great God is, and I'm looking like I'm one leg about to fall off and the rest of my body. And not saying that people who aren't physically well don't serve God. What I'm saying is we don't try to do the best we can to take care of this temple that the Lord has given us, and then we just want to tell everybody how great God is. Well, it's our fault that we're not taking care of. You get what I'm saying with that?
Yes, yes.
So, like, again, educating ourselves on the resources that are made available to us. Dr. Allen, I'm going to let you keep if you have something else you want to share, but I so appreciate your knowledge. I mean, I know this was a stretch for you because you're not used to just coming out here doing this. I know you talk to other people, but you're just not used to talking to people like me like this. I mean, we talk like sister and brother. We laugh and we joke, but
Right.
this formal type of conversation is different. But I really think this was information that women listening need to know, that they have a right to speak up, and that they're just with this, even this last part you just said, because we live in a world now where times are hard. I know of people who have said they've dropped their insurance. You know, if they had to pay, like, if their company charges them $200, $300, $400 a month for insurance, they've dropped their insurance to cover other bills in the house. So how can I do this? How can I take care of that? So that little just piece of information is so vital to listeners to know, hey, there's another way to afford and to take care of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And knowing that you have to speak up for yourself, and just even having the websites to go. Or I've talked to individuals that said, I went to a doctor and they didn't listen to anything I said. I keep telling them that this is the issue, and they keep doing this, they're not paying attention. Or I saw this, you know how you get your reports and your records,
Yeah.
and you're wondering why they're not disclosing to you what you can almost clearly figure out is on your record. Go find someone else. Have you ever encouraged someone to see another doctor?
Oh, I always do.
Okay.
I always do. And you can tell when a patient is thinking that anyway.
Okay.
You know, the patient's thinking that you want to encourage them to do it, and you know, make them aware that, you know, no hard feelings. You're really interested in her receiving the best care, or the care where she's most comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, yes, you know, get a second opinion.
Yes. So, anything else you want to share before we end this segment? I mean, I'm sure there's so much more to talk about, but I want people to do the research and learn.
Yeah, I'm still working on getting that article sent to you, so our listeners can read it. It's something I shared with an organization that I write for. I mean, the takeaway from this for me is that as a woman, you should educate yourself and speak up. Educate yourself and speak up. If you can't, if you aren't able to educate yourself, then you should ask the questions. Ask the questions. Well, you know, where can I get this information? Where I would like some education on this, and that's why, you know, you will share some of those websites at the end of the program where women can go to start having that conversation with their provider.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel I'm being heard. I don't feel like you're getting what I'm saying. You know, speak up. If you're not, and every office, like I said, has a social worker, a human resources department. If if there's no social work department, but say those kinds of things. I don't feel I'm being heard. You know, those are trigger words. You know, I don't feel. The minute you go, I don't feel, people stop these days in healthcare. You know, I don't feel appreciated. You know, I don't feel like, you know, I don't feel valued. I don't feel you value me as a customer. I don't feel you appreciate my business. You know, say those buzzwords, and
Yes.
people will stop and listen. I don't feel like you're getting what kind of care that I need. Um, you know, have those conversations with your provider, and if they can't handle it, then they're obligated to refer you out. You know, to send you somewhere where you'll receive better care, whether it's uh, more services or just in a place where perhaps they're more culturally sensitive. Perhaps their providers look more like you. Um, Perhaps their providers have um, some familiarity with the way you built your family and will not judge you that you have children from your three ex-husbands.
Mhm.
No, you'll not be
Right,
judged.
right,
So
right,
yeah, use your voice, speak up, and be heard. Yeah.
right. That's really, really excellent, excellent advice. I just think about someone come in here and it could be a doctor that delivered all three, and he like, here she come again with
Yeah.
another baby, and we don't want that. We want someone to say, "Oh, you having a baby?
Yeah.
What number is this?" Um, and what are you thinking? Are you hoping it's a boy? You want someone that has that heart, that sensitivity, that
Yeah.
love, so that your body's not stressed. I do remember when my daughter was pregnant, and the one thing you would always focus on with her, your baby feels your stress. You would tell her that all the time. Whatever you're doing, you're going to work, because she was in school, she was working, she had a lot going on. You said, your baby feels that stress, so I need you to relax.
Mhm.
I need you to relax. The baby also, Chris, you didn't tell her that everything she ate, they're going to want to eat now, because they love pizza and they love hot dogs, both of those babies. You should have told us that. Because she loved pizza when she was pregnant with Anthony, and he loves pizza. But yeah, so I just really appreciate this, and I will definitely, when you send that article, I will make sure that that article is posted to the comments as well. Those websites are posted to the comments. Listen, everybody, this is Vera Sadler with VLS Coaching with Dr. Chris Allen, and we've been here talking about disparities in healthcare, especially for African American women, and just advising and helping you learn how to speak up for yourself. If you want more information about this, reach out to me, inbox me, DM me, hit me up any kind of way. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, on YouTube, however you can reach out to me. And I will reach out to Dr. Allen personally and make sure if there's more information you're interested in that you haven't found on those websites, that I can personally get it from him. Like I told y'all in the beginning, that's my older little brother, or younger little brother, because I'm older than him. But that's my little brother, and I can make sure that if you need some specific information in that healthcare arena, that we can try to tap into it and get it for you. He is knowledgeable in his field. He is awesome. He is not just, like he said, he takes time to study. I remember at one time we were studying together, weren't we?
Yes.
We were both going to Liberty at the same time.
Right.
I didn't get a master's in divinity. I got my master's in something else, but we are both getting our masters at the same time. And I just appreciate you, Dr. Allen, from taking time away from those precious boys to spend time on here and talk to us. I know it was a little stretch. I thought you actually got called out to the hospital. I was like, oh, I was telling the guests you got called out to the hospital because I couldn't reach you at first. But I do appreciate you coming on, sharing tonight. And when you get that article, if you send whatever information, I'll make sure our guests get it and that they can learn to educate themselves, speak up for themselves, and if they need to say those buzzwords so they can get the attention they need.
Yeah.
Again, guys, this is Vera Sadler with VLS Coaching. Until we see you next week on Tuesday, Talk Live. Have a great night.
Good night.